Good morning. For this assignment, you will be applying trigonometry and trigonometric ratios to solve problems. So I'm going to solve these first two, and then we're going to go through and, well, I'm going to solve them, but first I'm going to go over the assignment. So first, for these, you're going to find the sine, cosine, and tangent of both of the angles. So for this one, it would be F and D. And just find the sine, cosine, and tangent for each one, which will be a ratio of the two sides. Notice they tell you all three sides. So that's enough information to find the ratios here. Here you're going to use the ratios to find the missing sides. So you have to set up an equation to find each of these, like W and V. On this problem, you have to solve the triangle. So first you find the third side using Pythagorean theorem, and then you find the angles using trigonometry, actually inverse trigonometric functions. And we'll go over how to solve that. And then just a word problem showing a real world example of how we would use trigonometry to find this missing distance d. All right. So for each of these, so 26, I'll be solving this triangle, so finding the missing side and the angles. And this one, I'm going to find M and L. So first, remember that we have three trigonometry functions or trig functions: sine, which is opposite over hypotenuse, that's the ratio; cosine, which is adjacent over hypotenuse; and tangent, which is opposite over adjacent. All right, so first I'm going to find this missing side using just the Pythagorean theorem. So 13.6 squared, and I will be using calculators to solve this, equals 4 squared plus C squared. Actually B squared, okay? So I'm going to solve for these. I'm going to subtract 13.6 squared minus 4 squared. I'm just gonna, no, I'll just leave it. 4 squared equals B squared. So first, I'm going to use a calculator and solve for this ratio. 13.6 squared minus 4 squared. Okay, so that's 168.96. Equals B squared. So that means B equals the square root of that, which is, that's the answer. So square root of that is 12.998. And I'm going to round it to 3 decimal points, 12.998, which is about 13. And I could even write it up here. About 13. Not quite 13. 12.998. All right, and now I'm going to use trigonometry to find the value for n. So I'm going to use these two angles over here. So 4 and 13.6 are these sides. Notice from n, this is the opposite side, and 13.6 is the hypotenuse. Well, which trig function uses opposite and hypotenuse? That's sine. So I can type here that the sine of n, again, please say sine, is 4 divided by 13.6, right? Opposite over, okay? So then what we actually do is we use the inverse function sine. I'm not sure how to write this. I'll just put -1 just right here. 4 divided by 13.6. That will give me the angle. So in the calculator, okay, let's see. 4 divided by 13.6. Let's see, how do I do the inverse? So I press second. Notice how it has the inverse functions. This goes from the output, which is the ratio, and you can find the angle. So it's very useful to find an angle. So I press the inverse sine button. This is the angle measure, 17.105 degrees, 17.105. And again, you can use the degree symbol. Okay. And then the value for P is actually equal to 90 minus N, right? So I take this value, subtract 90 from it, and it's negative, but the negative of that will be 72.895 degrees. And again, notice that these two should add up to 90 degrees. So these are these two angles, N and P. It is important to use degree to show it's not radians. So we found the missing angles. We found the missing side, so we know everything about this triangle. So again, we use this inverse trig function, inverse sine function, because we start with the ratio, and we can use the ratio to figure out the angle. Okay. Now in 33, they give us the angle, and we can use the angle to find the side. So for example, here, if we want to find L, let's see, we want to use the opposite side, and this is adjacent side. Which trig function uses opposite and adjacent? That's tangent. So, okay, so I'm going to use tangent of 34 degrees equals, let's see, opposite over adjacent. So 4 over L, that is an L. We can multiply by L to get, almost better if it's capitalized, because it's hard to tell. That looks like a 1, but that's in fact an L. Tangent of 34 degrees equals 4. So L equals 4 divided by the tangent of 34 degrees. Okay. So that means L equals, you can use a calculator, 4 divided by tangent of 34. So again, on my calculator, I put the angle first. Make sure it says degrees here. Then I press tangent. In your calculator, maybe you press tangent first. So experiment with your calculator. So this is the value of tangent of 34. Then I press equals, get the final answer, which is 5.93. So the length of L is 5.93. Next, to find M, we do something similar. This is the hypotenuse, so I use the opposite over hypotenuse, which is sine again. So sine of 34, sine of 34 degrees equals, let's see, opposite is 4. Opposite of this K angle is 4. Hypotenuse is M. Again, multiply by M to get the function. Sine of 34 degrees equals 4. And we solve for M by dividing by sine of 34 degrees. So M equals sine 4 divided by sine of 34 degrees. And then to get M, we just can type in the calculator, 4 divided by 34 sine, that's the sine of 34 degrees. Press equals, and I get 7.153. If you want to make sure you use the calculator correctly, you can input this question or one of these questions and see if you get the same answer to check your calculator. All right. So those are the two missing sides. Again, it's using the trig functions, which again, the input will be the angle, and the output will be the ratio of two sides of the triangle. All right. Well, and of course, the inverse function, you input the ratio and it outputs the angle as inverses. That's how inverses work. All right. Very good. Well, again, review the notes and everything. If you're still need more review on this, again, you can attend tutoring, and because I will be working on the trig functions just do your best with it, and you know, make sure to ask any questions that you have, because I know it can be sort of a challenging concept, but if you practice and understand what each of the functions mean, each of the ratios, what they represent, if you understand that concept, it isn't so bad. All right. Okay, very good. Have a good rest of your day, and I will talk to you next time.